it's life for everyone. So I'm gonna start moving right now.
Hey Johnny, can you turn on your controls?
Sorry?
Can you turn on the controls so you can see your brake points and all that? I think it's the peak key.
Oh, if you're spectating, you can't see those, as far as I know. I don't
No,
think
it's
we-
limited. You have to use a special tool to live stream them,
Yeah.
but we can't see them in a session.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But for the first lap, I'll do it. It won't matter because I'll just do everything snail space. But just to make sure before I start, I think it's important to make sure that everyone's synchronized and everything's live. So I'm gonna start moving right now. Is it live for
Warning to
everyone?
hot lappers. We're starting one of the walkthroughs here in the Discord channel.
Or
So
is there a delay?
No, it doesn't seem like there's too much of a delay. Like, I got it pretty much right when you said you were gonna go.
All right, so
If you're
setting
live,
up right
it's
now.
good.
All right.
Who are we following?
Johnny Guindi.
car 18 is the car to watch if you're not in the Discord.
All right. I'll do turn one when we come back round. All right. So turn two. I start braking. It's a little colder right now. It's 80 degrees, whereas it's 103 in default afternoon weather. So I'll just go over the breakpoints I use for default weather, just keeping in mind that they might be a tiny bit later now that it's colder and more grippy. But for turn two, what ideally what I'm trying to break is maybe 2/3 of the way between the three cones and the second set of cones with the two cones. So at about here is where I'm starting to break, and it's really important in this corner. One, turn in later than you probably think, and two, really carry the brakes into it. At the end, you'll be still braking very lightly though, just to get the front tires loaded and get the car to really turn in. And ideally, you're braking late, sure, but ideally you want to just hit the curb right at the very end and go over it just as the curb ends. That way you'll know you basically hit the corner right. And then you should also be able to pretty much get on the gas full throttle for this next part. This will be full throttle in second gear. And then the main thing for turn four is to stay to the right of the track and start braking maybe at the end of this curbing. It's very, very light braking. It's not really about slowing the car down as much as it is to really load the front wheels to let the car turn in quite a lot better. So a lot like turn two, turn four is a corner you really want to apex pretty late. So you'll be turning in around here, still a tiny bit on the brakes, apex at around here, but don't get fully on the curb because it's pretty high and it's prone to really bounce your car, maybe even damage your wing. So just touch it or maybe just miss it by the slightest of margins. And then for the exit, you really do want to use as much as you can of this curb without going on the dirt, just to open the track and make your exit that much better. So next up is the hairpin. So in default weather, I'm more or less braking again 2/3 of the way between the first set of cones on the left side and the second set of cones. So that would be at around here is where I start braking. And I think the main thing about the hairpin, it's not the trickiest corners, especially not considering the other corners on this track. But the main thing is not turning in too early and getting the car as straight as possible, to get on the throttle as early as possible. So you may lose a tiny bit of speed going through the corner, but you'll gain a whole lot more going down the straight afterwards.
Do you hold first or second through there?
First gear. So by the end of this straight, in default weather, in a hot lap, I'm already up to fifth gear. So I'll be going down to second gear for this next sequence of corners, and I'll start braking right at these 3 cones. So at around here is where I'm hitting the brakes. And again, this is another corner where it's really helpful to keep on the brakes a tiny bit as you're turning in, just to help the nose of the car point into the corner. And but this corner is more straightforward in that you're not early apexing or late apexing. You just turn in where it feels natural. And trying to not again use all of the curve because it bounces the car up and down and unsettles it a bit. And then for this next sequence of left-handers, of 2 left-handers, the main thing is from that last corner is to not get all the way to the left side on exit. So probably here is about as far as you want to go on exit from the last corner, just so you have the car set up for the next 2 left-handers and it's not all the way to the left. So yeah, maybe as far as you want to go is right before touching the curb on the inside. That way you can make both of these corners pretty tight, and you travel less distance and make up time that way. So through here, pretty much keep the middle of the track, and by the end, try to position the car so that you start braking in a straight line at the 2 cones in the left here. So you started braking in a straight line in third gear, I believe, through there. Go down a gear into second, and again, pretty straightforward corner. Don't go over the curb on the inside, but use all of the curbing on the outside. Open up the track. Yeah.
So, sorry, on that last corner, I think you're in 4th entering that. So do you, gear down once to go into 3rd, or you gear down twice to go into 2nd?
Twice into 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what gear you arrived there in. But yeah, if you're arriving in 4th, you're going to want to go down 2 gears into 2nd. And but these 2 kinks, left-handed kinks, they're obviously pretty straightforward. But it's important to get them right just so the car's positioned correctly for the next braking zone for that sequence of corners before the back straight. So you'll be going flat out through here, so there's not much science to these corners, but it is important to go probably about this wide, just so that you can have the car all the way to the left of the track before you start braking, between the 3 and the 2 cones. So right around here is where I'd start braking. And again, much like turn 2 and turn 4, this is another corner where you want to turn in a bit late and also use the brakes to help the car turn in. So you're braking, and by this last cone, you start easing off the brakes, turning in. Again, it's a late apex. You don't really want to go over the curb onto the concrete behind it. You can, and you don't get an off track, but it's actually a tiny bit quicker to just use the curb. And so, just as you get off the curb, you should be full throttle. Should be full throttle for this following left-hander. You should be getting up to. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that whole sequence you should be in 3rd gear for. So after the curbing, what you really want to do ideally is get on the concrete on the left side after the tarmac, and sort of brake at a diagonal line after the last bit of curbing, pretty much towards the end of that tire wall in front of me. So that's more or less what you're aiming for as you brake in a straight line. And it doesn't look very conventional, but it's the fastest way through here, because you may be covering a bit more distance, but at the same time, you really open up the corner and make the exit of it, a whole lot quicker, and that's really important.
Do you have a turn-in marker right there?
Maybe there is one, but I can't see it because I have 45-degree FOV. But
I have VR, and no, there isn't. You just got to look to the apex and try and hit it.
Yeah. Yeah, like for example, I can't see the apex at all, so it's just on feel for me. But I'm sure if you're looking at the apex, you can just get a feel for when you're supposed to turn in. But again, the main thing is for this corner is just thinking about the exit, not concentrating too much about how much speed you carry in, but instead just concentrating on how early you can get back on the throttle. And similar to the two corners ago, you can go over the curb on the inside here onto the concrete, but it's actually a tiny bit slower to do that. I think the ideal way to take this corner is to use all of the curb, but don't go over it on the inside, and on the outside, obviously, use as much as you can of the curb. Just make sure you get back on the concrete before the grass starts. Alright, so last corner, and by far the trickiest corner in the track, and probably the trickiest corner in all of iRacing. One of the reasons it's so tricky is that one, it's a long corner, two, it's bumpy, three, it's really wide, and four, you don't really get any good reference points. So it's pretty tricky, and because it's so wide, there's also quite a few different lines that are quick through it. And I think that there's probably like 2 or 3 lines that are just as quick through it, but the one I stick to, which is pretty easy to do consistently, is the one I'll go over. So basically, what I do is I'm in 5th gear, going full throttle down the straight, and when I get halfway between the second set of cones and the third set of cones, so around here, still in full throttle, in 5th gear, I started to turn in, and basically what I want to do is treat this corner as a triple apex corner. So I'll go over the apexes. The first one being still in full throttle. You're going to be aiming to get the middle of the car right over the yellow line. And you're going to start braking in a straight line, maybe 5 to 10 meters before you get there. So right around here is where you would get on the brakes. You let the middle of the car go over this yellow line. You brake in a straight line, let the car run wide, almost up to the white line on the outside. You start to turn in again. You drag the brakes a tiny bit to help the nose pitch in. Then the second apex would be around here, maybe 1.5 meters or 1 meter away from the yellow line on the exit, on the inside, I mean. And finally, the last apex would be as close to the wall as you can through here. And then the rest of the corner, what you want to do is just stay as tight as possible, just so you cover the least distance possible. And well, that would be the lap, except for turn 1, which we'll go over now. All right. Well, again for turn 1, there aren't very good references for where to start braking, but what I use is there's a dip in the wall, in the pit wall on the right side, and I pretty much start braking maybe 10 meters before it goes straight. So it dips and then it sort of goes straight towards the end. So I start braking it around here. But I think the braking for this corner is very, very light. Like at first I only go maybe 30% on the brakes and then off to 20. So it's not that much about slowing the car down, but it's more about getting the car to turn in for turn one. So
Sorry, I was just going to say, for what it's worth, if you're having a hard time seeing that dip in the wall, because I don't really know what you mean, but there's, if you look just right next to his left tire there, there's a sort of a crack. Right there, you can see where it starts. That's where I brake. The sort of line that runs parallel to the car.
yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Pretty much the same place, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a better reference. Well, yeah, and I start braking, and pretty much as I start braking, I start to turn in as well. So there isn't much braking being done in a straight line. You pretty much want to be turning in as soon as possible. And for turn one, the main thing is to at least get your left side tires over the yellow line, and the closer you can get to the wall, the better. That way you can get back on the gas a bit earlier, and it's also one of those corners where you have more space on exit than you realize. So you can get on the throttle pretty early, and just make sure that ideally you wanna hit the curb on the outside at the very end.
And for anyone that doesn't know, that cone that's up in the fence up top there or whatever, that's the apex marker.
Oh, really? I always wondered what it was doing there.
That's what it's there for. Yeah.
Oh, all right. And well, that's the lap pretty much. I could do I don't know. I can finish the lap just listening to questions from you guys or comments or maybe reference points you guys find a bit more helpful. And afterwards I can just do a lap up to speed. I don't know what you guys prefer.
I'd like to see a hot lap.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about any specific corner?
Yeah, in turn one, are you what gear are you in? Is that fourth?
Yeah. So you finish the straight in fifth gear, and you just go down to fourth. As you start braking. All right. I'll do a hot lap.
I don't know if now's a good time to ask, but did you do anything with the setup of the car different from stock on this?
No. I'm using the exact same setup I used at Watkins Glen, which is 19 psi on the tires, 5 on the spring perch offset, 6 on the anti-roll bar, and 53 on the brake bias. But apart from the tire pressures, I'd say everything else is just down to preference and what you think feels better, what you're more comfortable with. That'll be the quickest at the end of the day.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Fine. The only places where it does help to maybe lower the tire pressures is in really tight tracks like Oran Park or 2 weeks ago when we had New Hampshire Road. If you get really tight corners, it does help to maybe get the pressures down to 18 or 17.4. But other than that, it's just down to preference. Alright. I think the trickiest corner by far is Sunset Bend. But if you look out for those 3 apexes I went over, you do get it after a few tries. Alright. The lap's almost over, but I'll do one more. Just because I messed up some bits. Yeah. On exit there, by the way, you can get a bit on the grass, and you don't get an off track. You can probably get like 2 tires width over the grass without getting the off track. Yeah, I think it was a better lap. But
yeah, just slightly by a second.
Yeah. But any questions, comments?
How gradual are your throttle inputs?
I think the only place where I'm not getting immediately on the let me get off the racing line. The only place where I'm not getting immediately on the throttle is at the end of that back straight after the hairpin. So that'd be the hairpin's turn 5. So turn 6, I'm just not completely on the gas immediately because you can get a bit of wheel spin in second gear through there. But pretty much everywhere else, ideally you want to be either completely on or completely off the gas, unless the car's getting a bit unstable and you need to settle the rear. In that case, do get a bit on the throttle, but only a tiny bit. But apart from that, it's not very gradual at all. It's pretty much from off to on. But yeah, I think I can save a replay of either this lap or any other lap I do in this session, and I'll post it on either on the forum, or if there's a way to post the replay file on the Discord, I'll do that.
Yeah, you should be able to just drag it straight to the channel and it just uploads itself.
All right. Yeah,
Depends
that
on
way
the size of it.
That way you get to see the pedal inputs as well.
Yeah, it's an 8 megabyte limit, I believe. You can zip it up possibly, but
yeah.
So you're making a lot of corrections as you go. Would you say that if you aren't having to make corrections, you're probably slow?
No, not at all. Ideally, in the perfect lap, obviously you'll never get a perfect lap. In a perfect lap, you'll never make a correction. Because if you make a correction, that means the rear of the car is sliding, and that'll kill your speed a tiny bit. So ideally, you don't want to have any. You won't have to do any corrections at all. But obviously, you never get the perfect lap. But it's especially for turn 1 and Sunset Bend. It's very common to have to correct on the wheel or on the gas because it's so bumpy and the rear of the car can get really light and unstable. So not only are you gonna have to correct a tiny bit on the wheel if you in a fast lap, but you'll also have to maybe give it a tiny dab of throttle to get the rear tires loaded and get more grip on them and stop the rear from sliding around. Yeah, so if the rear of the car is sliding and you're having to correct, don't take it as an indication that you're going fast enough. Or if the rear of the car isn't sliding at all, that also doesn't mean you're going slow.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.